What an insane card that was last night. Wow. I mean, listen, the title fight and co-main event were, you know, just the average control time master classes by Islam Makhachev and Valentina Shevchenko. Islam might have just cemented himself as the greatest fighter of all time, although he's definitely in the conversation if you don't want to put him on that pedestal yet. And yeah, he really did that for 25 minutes, whatever, 5 rounds. I think we maybe all had higher expectations for Jack Della Maddalena, but that was more of a Hamza Chimaev type performance where the Dagestani Russian wrestler comes in and completely decapitates and takes away any form of fight that the champion has, like a Jack Della Maddalena, who we thought would be a lot bigger and better with his takedown defense and specifics training with Craig Jones, and that if he kept on the feet with the striking and the boxing, it never got there. Islam Makhachev, and we might as well just get straight into it. He had everything he needed out of this fight. He had everything going for him any way he wanted on the ground. We got lucky if we got, at the beginning of each round, 2 minutes of striking and on the feet. Islam exercising his striking a little bit, going and then eventually going for that takedown and keeping Jack Della Maddalena there. Jack Della Maddalena had no way means of getting up to get up. He just, as I predicted, Islam Makhachev is just too great of a fighter. He's a different level than Bilal Muhammad. I mean, Bilal Muhammad was way more he was way more giving to put stuff on the feet and try to display his quote-unquote Canelo hands, but Islam Makhachev wasn't. I'm sure Jack Della Maddalena, as soon as he got taken down by Islam, he's like, oh yeah, it's going to be a long night for me. This dude's a different level. You could see the strength of Islam. You could see how big he was from the new weight class. He looked huge in there. People were saying after the weigh-ins, oh, Islam doesn't really look like a natural 170 guy. Jack Della Maddalena looks more full, and maybe he did, but Islam, I could tell you for sure, we all could see it, how different he looked from his lightweight cut at 311 to now doing a welterweight cut. He looks so much more happier, a lot more energy, a lot more in his face, like life in his face. So you could tell he had a really good weight cut. And what he displayed last night is kind of what he's been saying, is that he was able to fight more than 70% of his ability since he didn't have this drastic weight cut that drained him. And yeah, Islam is, I think, the 10th or 11th person in UFC history to become a 2-division champion. Set out to do what he wanted to do, He is once again putting another stone in the Nurmagomedov dynasty, right? With Khabib and what he did, Umar, and then Islam. Umar's some crazy record in one. Islam Makhachev's now 28-1. You have Usman Nurmagomedov, who's doing his thing in the PFL. Complete dynasty of these guys, the Dagestani Russians. And yeah, there's not much else I really need to say on this. Jack Della Maddalena, I think we all had higher expectations for how he was going to come into this fight. And if it wasn't Jack, then I don't know who else in this division could give Islam the kind of problems that he needs, because Islam's going to do that to everyone else. I can never pick against Islam right now. He's looking big, he's looking strong, he's just a different level of fighter. And yeah, it was a pretty anticlimactic type of fight. And what's next for Islam? Well, obviously, what I really would like to see is the Ilia Topuria fight. Although after a performance like that, I honestly wouldn't be so confident about picking Ilia anymore after seeing a performance like that. But also, it really depends on the weight class, because Islam is very reluctant, obviously. And why would he want to kill himself to go back to 155? As he's saying, why would he go back to 155 to beat Ilia, to get back that belt? Unless, of course, Dana White would pay a lot of extra money for Islam to make that weight cut, so we could have the biggest fight possibly in UFC history. But if Ilia would be crazy to chase Islam at 170 the way that Islam's looking. He's looking so big. Topuria, he's short, and the weight matters. And Of course, I still would love to see this fight, even if they could maybe do it at catch weight, although there's no title on the line. I think it's just to see who's the pound-for-pound greatest fighter, really. It's just to put on the most generational fight of all time. Topuria Islam, the biggest fight since Khabib McGregor. So if you want to do it at catchweight, just so we could see who could get that crown for pound. I mean, Islam's probably going to be pound for pound after this weekend. But Islam, yeah, and then Usman has been sitting out for his shot. Maybe they're going to give him that fight. And honestly, after seeing this type of performance by Makhachev, I think Usman could do better. Although he probably does not deserve it at all, because he got one win over Hakeem Buckley. But Kamaru Usman may be able to do better after he looked versus Hakeem Buckley than, let's say, Michael Morales or Carlos Prates. These guys have no shot with Islam. Because, of course, they have the power, the crazy power in their hands, the striking, and we're going to get to them in a minute with their very big welterweights. But you really think if Jack Della Maddalena couldn't keep it on the feet, you think Michael Morales and Prates are going to keep it on the feet? No, Islam's going to be doing that to Morales too. He's going to be doing that to Prates for sure. I thought Sean Brady could be one of the few problems to give Islam Makhachev in this division, but Sean Brady has once again been backtracked after his loss. And then you, of course, have Shavkat Rakhmonov, who needs to take another fight when he comes back. But Shavkat Rakhmonov could maybe be the most interesting and boogeyman matchup for Islam Makhachev. But Islam's going to go down as the greatest, guys. He's really just, that's it. Islam Makhachev, legacy-defining performance, coming up a division, getting the 2 belts like he has set his sights after. The lighter weight class, lighter man skill. As the great YouTubers, MMA YouTubers say, lighter man skill. Lucas Tracy, but yeah, Islam Makhachev. Great fight. I mean, dominant performance, really. And a little disappointed how Jack Della Maddalena turned out, but still amazing style, sick fighter. Hope he could bounce back in a big way, whoever he takes on next. And we're going to see what's next for Islam. Hopefully, maybe White House. And hopefully versus Topuria. Topuria went at him last night with a tweet. You're the most boring thing in this game, Islam. And by the way, his teammate, John Poor, going viral. His team got in a crazy brawl with Dylan Dennis. Just mayhem last night. The greatest women's fight of all time. The women's super fight between Valentina Shevchenko and Zhang Weili ended like that, with Shevchenko pretty much manhandling Zhang Weili the entire night. I guess I really felt like Weili could cause some problems with her lighter man skill, but Shevchenko just showed the entire time there's a reason there's weight classes. Bigger fighter, had her way in all 5 rounds. Boring women's fight, as advertised, per usual. I don't know why I had my hopes up for, still, it's cool to, I guess, see the most skilled strawweight and flyweight woman go at it, but yeah, Valentina Shevchenko, greatest dominant performance, and now is probably the greatest flyweight, not just greatest flyweight, but probably the best pound-for-pound women's fighter of all time. So yeah, at least we got this one out of our system, right? At least we got this out of our system, because women's MMA is so bad to begin with. So at least in our lifetime, we got to see 2 of the greatest women's fighters in their divisions who were dominant for a very long time. As we know, Zhang Weili didn't lose the belt from anyone. She vacated it. So it was champion versus champion. We got to see it. But Shevchenko takes it. And yeah, I don't know. Shevchenko, what else is there for her to do? Just retire? What, are you going to keep doing cycles around the division? I guess she wants to stick around and continue to make some good money. And Weili, maybe she should just go back down to strawweight and get back her belt versus Mackenzie Dern. And yeah, just keep riding out her title defenses. This was the climax of women's MMA. Now that this is done, I don't see how they could step it up from here with any big matchups in women's MMA. Michael Morlaes. Sean Brady, I really feel for Sean Brady. I really looked at him like the next big thing in welterweight, as a lot of people did. I thought he could be a future champion. He still can, of course, and just the way he dominantly handled Leon Edwards. But and you got to give him respect. I think he would have beaten Ian Gary had he gotten in that matchup, and then he for sure would have gotten the title shot. This one was a dangerous one for him. Taking on Michael Morlaes, who's been looking big in there. He's a big welterweight, been looking big in there against these guys like Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady. Dangerous, 6 feet, 2-inch height advantage, crazy, like big reach advantage. Just this lethal striker that does have kind of a wrestling background, Muay Thai. And Sean Brady took the risk. He took this big fight because he keeps on saying how he's willing to fight for his shot. Not like these other guys just sitting in the shadows, sitting patiently until they get the title shot. Sean Brady actually goes out there and tries to fight for it. Took this fight as a big risk. I thought, though, he was going to have the experience and the tool bag to really control Michael Morlaes. Because I thought if he took it to the ground, as long as he keeps it there, it's Sean Brady's fight to lose. But we never even got there. Sean Brady never even got his hands really on Michael Morlaes to put him to the ground. Michael Morlaes went in there, and yeah, he looked as advertised as the undefeated welterweight that he is. It wasn't too big of a moment for him. He went in there and he was piecing up Sean Brady, and it was looking scary, and Sean Brady was getting hurt, and Sean Brady couldn't get any kind of success. Sean Brady couldn't get any kind of positioning to shoot a takedown, do the wrestling that he did with Leon. Michael Morlaes had kind of like a crouch stance. He wasn't like displaying his full height. And before you know it, Michael Morlaes lit him up, and TKO'd finished him. And in the first round, he hurt Sean Brady before, but Sean Brady was able to manage to stay up. But Sean Brady looked like a deer in headlights there. He looked like Michael Morlaes was on the front foot the entire time. And eventually, it's going to show how scary this guy is at 26 years old, 19-0. But as good as Michael Morlaes is, he ain't going to be beating Islam Makhachev. He definitely could pose a problem because he's big, but he ain't. I don't see how he's going to do anything to Islam Makhachev. I felt like Jack Della Hoya could be the guy, but Michael Morlaes sure as hell ain't the guy to be taking down a guy like Islam Makhachev if he gets the title shot next. What you could do is Michael Morlaes versus Prates next, who we're about to get into with Prates. Because Michael Morlaes definitely has just established himself early on as one of the elite welterweights. I really hope Sean Brady could bounce back and find his way somehow back to the title. He's still a phenomenal fighter. 18-2. He lost to Michael Morlaes. He lost to Bilal, but Sean Brady could do a lot to a lot of other guys in this division. And I think he would give Islam Makhachev maybe a tough fight because has more of a wrestling grappler base than a Jack Della Maddalena or a lot of these other guys in this division. It's just disappointing to see, but yeah, Michael Morlaes looking dangerous. The kind of power that he possesses in the way he strikes. Very scary fighter. Very tall. Carlos Prates versus Leon Edwards, bro. Leon Edwards is finished. He's finished. Oh my goodness. Prates, this is now his second statement highlight KO after the loss to Gary. Went in there in Chicago, did what he did to Jeff Neal at the end of the first round, spinning elbow KO. This guy is a KO artist. Leon Edwards in the beginning of this fight, right? He turned into a wrestler. He said he finally gets the striker matchup with Prates, but if he needs to, he'll turn to the wrestling. But like Edwards, it's ironic because he got dominated in his last 2 fights, 2 wrestler grapplers, where Leon Edwards could not get anything off the ground. But then he goes in with a striker like Prates, who he knows carries that dynamite in his hands on the feet. And what does Edwards do in that first round? Wrestles Carlos Prates, takes the back, punching him. Prates, has this great moment where he's like making a face, like, what's this dude doing to me? Like, I'm not impressed. Like, and that was pretty like cool because he's like, and Edwards did win this first round, and people were saying, oh yeah, Edwards, he's never got knocked out. He's finally got a striker. This could be the turnaround fight for him. But Prates makes it out of the first round, goes into the second round, and keeping on the feet. Boom. Carlos Prates, again, a moment where you just see the freakish power that he possesses. It wasn't even a full hook or a full winded power shot. All Prates did was a jab down the middle that got past the guard of Edwards. And Edwards falls to his face, seeing the stars. And Prates follows it up with one more follow-up shot, and then I'm sure this is going to go viral. This it's going to become an instant meme of Edwards, the way he's looking up at the referee after he got knocked out. He's like smiling, and his eyes are like glassy and in a gaze. He's like smiling. He looks like he's in cuckoo land. Leon Edwards, and as predicted, Prates caught Edwards' body within 2 rounds. Statement for Prates on a huge card like MSG. Just beat the number 4 welterweight in the world and a champion. Prates, crazy. This guy is a KO artist. He's in all of his wins in the UFC, he has finished by violent knockout. Like in his UFC run, in every win, it's 100% finish rate right now. And these are all just violent knockouts. And this reminds me of the Neil Magny win that he had. He barely even, it didn't even look like he fully connected. But the power that he has is putting these guys to the floor, even with like these light shots. It's crazy. So Edwards is on the brink of getting cut from the UFC now. 2 fights removed from the belt. And yeah, this is where he stands. Edwards is still a great welterweight. He'll beat a lot of unranked guys. But yeah, he's falling out of this division. The UFC might keep him around for one more fight if he loses that one. And you're going to want to give him someone that you know he could really just take to a decision win, because Edwards needs it. Otherwise, you're going to find him out of the UFC. But Prates, absolute star now for sure. And we'll see what's next for him. Although I'm concerned for Prates. I don't think he'll get the title. Not with Islam at the top of this division. Him versus Jack Della Maddalena would have been sick. Him versus Michael Morlaes in a title eliminator could be sick. Like, both have crazy, reach. And they're both big. Both displayed crazy, power tonight. With just their long arms striking. Like, Prates versus Morlaes is probably the next fight to make. That's a crazy fight. But, again, both, I don't think, could take Islam for a title shot. Because they're just going to get exactly what happened to Jack Della Maddalena is going to happen to them. But Prates, huge moment. And then Benoit Saint-Denis predicted him to win, but could never have expected it like this. This is his 3rd straight win now. In 16 seconds. Took out Beneil Dariush. Yeah, Beneil Dariush, it's a wrap for you, my guy. You said you were going to retire if you lost to Murato Moicano. You beat him in a decision, but now you just got finished in 16 seconds by not even a full shot. Benoit just punched him on the side of the face with a quick jab, and that put him to the ground. Crazy, this fight. I said 16 seconds. Benoit Saint-Denis is on a run right now. He's looking the way he did going into the Poirier fight now. This dominant, violent marauder. Benoit's looking good. He was on the brink of possibly losing his career and getting kicked out of the UFC, but probably the best thing that happened to him was not getting Yoel Alvarez. But now, after performances like this, maybe he would have given Yoel Alvarez a much cleaner fight than I was expecting. Because Kyle Prapalik submits Mauricio Ruffy. Now, statement 16-second KO versus Beneil Dariush. Wow. Benoit Saint-Denis. What's next for him? I don't know. But, great. I was so close to picking this card perfect. I mean, I got the top 3 fights wrong. But my streak remains alive for the main fights. The main events, picking right. Bo Nickal needs to bounce back in a big way. And that he did. He already had a pretty dominant performance in the first 2 rounds. But, yeah, head kick KO versus Rodolfo Vieira. He displayed all kinds of his tool bag tonight. Defensive wrestling, offensive wrestling, and, of course, displayed striking. Violent head kick KO versus Rodolfo Vieira. But Bo Nickal needed this. And it's great that not only did he get a win, but he got a violent finish win to get back some of his credibility in the UFC, because if he lost this, you wouldn't hear the end of it. People already don't like him as it is. People don't even like him after this win. He got booed and flipped off by the crowd. But Bo Nickal keeps his UFC career alive. 9-1 now, I believe, right? Is that his record? Something like that. And yeah, we'll see what happens with him next. Probably White House. Maybe he gets one more fight in between that. Maybe a fight night main event. Sir Sakayev called him out. But Bo Nickal, crazy bounce back win. Just another crazy finish in a row on this card. Head kick KO for Bo Nickal. And then Rodriguez gets the decision versus Roman Kopylov. Pretty cool fight. Striking on the feet. Roman Kopylov definitely had some big striking combination moments. It was a cool fight. And then predicted Erin Blanchfield to beat Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez was winning a lot of the first half of this fight, but then Erin Blanchfield ends up submitting Tracy Cortez, and not a lot of people saw this on their bingo cards for this card. Malcolm Wellmaker, whoa, crazy stutter just there. Let's ignore that. Wellmaker, yeah, like, who would have thought that a guy in 48 hours notice, Wellmaker couldn't clean off for another crazy highlight KO. It seemed written. Like, I think he would have also finished Cody Haddon. But then he gets a guy in 48 hours notice, Ethan Ewing, who nobody has heard of before this, but apparently came off a KO in his 8 days ago, and then goes in there and defeats a super hyped prospect, one of the biggest favorites on the card, in Malcolm Wellmaker. And it was a great fight. It was a very entertaining fight. It's not like Wellmaker got completely dominated. Wellmaker was trading shots with him. Wellmaker was striking. But this guy, Ewing, just made a name for himself. Like, he made Malcolm Wellmaker bleed in there and work for it. Wellmaker did not have the easy, steamrolling performance we all anticipated him to have versus a guy like this. It seemed like another Chris Motino situation. And Wellmaker, yeah, I love the story. I really thought he was going to get this crazy statement KO, like, to open up the prelims on MSG, stay undefeated. But again, maybe got too hyped on a prospect that gets two flashy KOs versus bums. Cody Haddon would have been a great test for Malcolm Wellmaker, but yeah, Ethan Ewing, respect to this dude, comes in there 48 hours and actually beats the guy. So he's probably going to hold on now and get another UFC fight. And Malcolm Wellmaker back to the drawing board. But I'm sure he's going to bounce back. Still super entertaining, still has crazy pop in his shots. Had a couple of moments where his hooks could have connected and made that crazy KO moment. But yeah, pretty surprising outcome for Malcolm Wellmaker. And then the rest of it, Kyle Daukaus finishes Gerald Meerschaert in the first round, phases Gerald Meerschaert on the feet, takes Gerald Meerschaert to the ground, submits him. Gerald Meerschaert, another loss in quick fashion in 50 seconds. Like, in his last fight, too, got finished by Michael Oleszczuk in the first round within, like, the first 2 minutes. So, Meerschaert, it's time to call it a career. Like, what are you doing? Why are we still giving this guy fights? Like, I get it. He's a name. He's a veteran. But this is looking bad on him, bro. Like, this is his second fight in a row where he just got completely dominated couldn't even take it to the second round. So, Kyle Daukaus on a little bit of a run right now, too, of his own with some finishes. Pat Sabatini is looking like an elite ranked featherweight. Great grappler and wrestler. Completely dominated Chepe Mariscal. Really. Sure, Mariscal cut him open and there was blood everywhere, but Sabatini did his thing. He did his thing and really just had his entire way with Mariscal, with the grappling, taking the back, very slick, moving, keeping it like great performance by Pat Sabatini, really bouncing back in big ways after that loss he had to Diego Lopez. And Pat Sabatini, I really think, could hang with a lot of the ranked featherweights in this division. I don't think he's good enough to really be a top 5 guy, but he could be a good fight for, like, Aljamain Sterling. I don't know, some of these other wrestlers, like Pat Sabatini, great fight. Don't really care about that fight, the women's fight. And then to finish off, you got Ben Sangor Sakayev. Once again, kind of like thinking he's for as much of a favorite as he was in this fight, everyone's like, yo, Sursakayev's for sure going to dominate this dude. But McConaughey, like, Sursakayev just plays around a little too much. And so far, in the first 2 UFC fights we've seen him, he's been playing around in the first round. He hasn't been taking the guys seriously, but I guess, I don't know, he keeps on doing this. He keeps on, like, letting the fighter, like, kind of, like, get some shots off and start making the fight a real fight. But then in the last round, Sursakayev does that. Goes in there and throws some kind of jab hook into McConaughey, sent McConaughey to the ground, and got the finish. Really, when you thought that maybe he would actually lose this fight, which would have really been bad. But like, Sirsakhayv does it again, 11-0, undefeated. Still has ways to learn for sure. That's the biggest takeaway. He's very young, but again, he's continuing to gain experience. And even when he's having these much closer fights than we think versus guys like McConaughey and Eric Nolan, he's still finding the finishes. But again, these are lower level guys. We'll see if that works versus higher level guys. Maybe you give him the Bo Nickal matchup, but Sirsakhayv is still very low in the picture. Like, Bo Nickal kind of got a win tonight that would say that he should get someone still like in decent ranking. And then Slava Claus lost to this guy, Mateus Camilo. So yeah, that's overall the thoughts on UFC 322. On paper, was the best card this year, and also played out pretty much as one of the best cards this year because you had a lot of great fights, really from Kopylov versus Rodriguez all the way until Shevchenko Weili was an insane run of fights. Insane run. And then the last two actual title fights were kind of one-sided, dominant decisions, but what can you do, you know? Greatest of the great. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on UFC 322. We got another phenomenal card video out soon about UFC Qatar with Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. Until next time.